Alan, well, I think he's a very charming young man. Well, I would say that because he's my son, of course. He's nearly 26 and he has what I suppose you could call classic autism.
Which one shut? That's it, thank you. Right.
Autism is what's called a hidden disability. In that, to all intents and purposes, he looks perfectly ordinary until he starts speaking.
I don't want to rest at home.
It can be quite difficult, especially if we're out and about with the general public, in that he doesn't necessarily understand what they mean. And he doesn't understand body language, so when he communicates with people, he tends to be very loud, he tends to be very much to his own agenda, and he has difficulty giving people personal space as well. And of course he has special interests, which a lot of people on the spectrum do have. It's very much more intense than an ordinary hobby, I would say. He, for example, is fascinated by traffic lights.
As is green now.
He knows the different names of traffic lights, who makes them. He has a special interest in lifts. He'll be able to tell you what shop has what make of lift, how many people the lift can take, and what the weight capacity is, and he can do this for places all over London. But he does have other, more mainstream interests as well. He's very interested in photography, actually. He likes taking photographs underwater as well as on land. Alan's been diving in Egypt, which is one heck of an achievement for somebody like him. It really is. Alan had never flown before. And part of the preparation for him was for me to contact Gatwick Airport, and he was shown exactly what happens. That was really invaluable. It really was. There are times when it's pretty apparent that people don't have experience of autism. And I can remember when Alan was very little, actually, and I took him into a department store, and he was distressed by the noise, and he was shouting. The woman on the checkout was turning around and saying to me, that child needs to have a slap. It made me feel terrible, but just trying to get other people to understand he's just distressed by the environment. Remember, people with autism want to be part of society, so we need to help society to try and help include people. He works at a local Sainsbury's. He started off doing work experience, actually, and he thoroughly enjoyed it there. After about 9 months, they said, well, we'd like to make it a permanent thing, so he's paid for it now. He needs a lot of support to achieve what he wants in everyday life. He needs somebody with him at all times to keep him safe. Providing he knows what's going on in the world, he's okay. But if he's presented with changes, it really upsets him, because people on the spectrum often don't like change. It's to remind him what's going to happen in advance and to be very concrete about what you say to him.
It's done yet?
Almost, I think, am I right?
Should we say, if I said 3 minutes?
Yeah.
Would that be okay?
Yeah.
And then maybe we'll do some filming with you?
What's going to happen?
We'll chat to your mum for another 3 minutes.
I'll lead you to it.
Okay, thank you, Alan.
I'll see what you need to do.
Okay, thank you, Alan.
Let me know what you want me to do.
Yes, we will, Alan. We'll let you know what we want you to do. Yes, you see what I mean now. Thank you. Can I get to the sink, please, Alan?
Yeah.
Thank you. First of all, make sure that you've got his attention, and then ask him in a very direct way, in a very concrete way, not using figures of speech, not using analogies. Alan wouldn't be able to deal with those sort of things. I'd have to do it for him, to be perfectly honest. What do you think I've forgotten to do? What's that? And make the request quite short as well, because otherwise it's very difficult for him to remember if you give him a great chunk of information to remember at one go. I can only really speak from Alan's point of view, not from anybody else on the spectrum, because once you've met one person on the spectrum, you have literally just met one person on the spectrum.
My name's Chris Hollins. I'm a 28-year-old man, as you can see, and I've got Asperger's syndrome. I personally always knew, I wasn't quote-unquote quite as intellectual or clever as the other kids, falling behind work-wise. Found it a bit more of a struggle than possibly some of the other kids did. I've got my own passions, my own hobbies. I'm more creative, drawing, art. I came up with a graffiti background. I love graffiti. I'm not an actual artist. I'm writing a book at the moment. I've finished it now. Finished the handwritten version. I'm now typing it. It's really good for me actually, because it's the first time ever really in my life that I've sat down and done something and finished it and not given up. Because one of the traits with Asperger's can be your attention span. It's always been a huge problem in anything I've really done. You could read that out. So
Yeah, of course,
hear what
yeah.
it sounds like.
Yeah.
It's about Asperger's syndrome, the way it affects people, the way people perceive you.
Just what is your name? I replied, Chris. Well, Chris, do you think that when I'm talking you could possibly be kind and assertive enough to actually listen? I mean, I really would expect a little more from a 17-year-old. My bottom lip even started to go a bit, and my anger then started to boil over.
Teachers telling you to stand there, you need to look over there, and you need to do this at this time. But it can be a problem. You can't remember all 4 of them things straight away, so you might stand there rather than there, look over there rather than over there, and say this rather than say that, what you were supposed to say. Teachers would think I was doing it on purpose, and they would get annoyed, and them getting annoyed at me would create anxiety, and because it would be in front of people, it would make me cry. It's not nice being shouted at, especially when you're trying. You're generally trying. You're not, it's not nice. So yeah. I had a job. The manager called me in. He actually appeared quite annoyed and stressed at the fact that I had done so well in the interview, but I was now struggling with simple things like remembering where the photocopy is, or what needs to be photocopied, or where the photocopied items go in relation to the desk, where this goes, where that goes, which is information retaining issues. Emotions and dealing with emotions can be quite explosive, or people without Asperger's syndrome obviously have emotions, but on the autistic spectrum and with Asperger's, the emotions can just be much more magnified. So for some people, quote unquote normal people or people without Asperger's, they'll be going to an event, they'll step on their shoes, out the door, away they go, and that's the norm for them. For someone with Asperger's or autism, it might be a huge thing to deal with. They might not sleep the previous night, they're worried about it, what shall I wear, what shoes, and everyone thinks about what shall I wear tomorrow, but they'll be going over it and over it. Will I look all right? What will the train journey be like? Will it be noisy? And when they get there, they'll just be so on edge and anxious. Automatically, you get known as the weirdo, or he's a bit loopy, or he's a bit weird. He's a good target to take the mick out of. I didn't always realise that I was getting taken advantage of. Yeah, you can attract the wrong peer group, I think. But at least I was getting some attention when maybe everything was so bad at home. Even that negative attention was good enough for me at the time. You haven't got the capability around that age, 14, 15, 16, to make those decisions and realise, especially with Asperger's, you've not got that filter even more to make those decisions. Now I am here with my flat, got my girlfriend, got my animals that I love, got my hobbies, got my writing career, hopefully, if I get the book deal, once it's typed up and edited, and here I am now. Forehead big as ever.
I have autism, and you may perceive that as me not being interested in you, but it's probably because I'm a little worried about putting myself into words. Yeah, that's it. Like, I kind of just despise the question, how are you? Because, well, that's such a broad question. I mean, how am I? I'm a lot of stuff, I did this course, and one thing we did learn about was using this app called Google Sites, and with that I created a website called George's Marvellous Miscellany. I make lists that are related to movies. A good example would be James Bond's cars. I've got a column for the appearances it makes, the model of course, complete with pictures, the license plate. This is how hardcore I go. I feel like I'm doing a service, providing information that hasn't really been executed in at least the way I wanted it to be executed. The reward is the page itself, really.
I'm Alison, I'm in my mid-40s. I really like wanting a good household, good, clean, functioning household. Before I became a house owner, I was never interested that much in gardens. I'm not into flowers. I've always been into grass. When I was in Australia, about 20 years ago, what do I remember about the capital city, Canberra? The lovely manicured grassed lawns. I remember being at my parents' for Easter one year, and my mother and I were saying, oh, what time the grass programme was on. Other people called it golf from Augusta. My hobbies are church bell ringing. I'm helping out with sailability, which is disabled sailing. I was on a skiing holiday recently. It was lovely people all the time. I was never out of the group, and I just found it too much. And so I just needed a space. I needed my own space. I don't know, I think it's partly why I smoke a bit. I actually get away from other people for a few minutes. I was diagnosed about 9 years ago, and I'd accepted my disability. It took me about a year, and it was just a journey within myself. I got diagnosed the first time. A lot of people with Asperger don't get diagnosed the first time. So I was lucky in my diagnosis. People treat you as dumb, treat you as naive, treat you as learning difficulties. I'm not very good at being teased. I snapped recently, but in a nice, funny way. I said to the man in the pub, I don't take well to being teased. A few years ago, a previous lodger of mine emptied one of my bank accounts. The lodger pleaded guilty. But anyway, during those 6 months or so, I was issued with a police panic alarm. They deemed me as a vulnerable person. To me, Asperger is my communication difficulty. It's how I read people, my lack of reading people. I lack mounting subtleties in life, facial expressions, and so I like people to explain something to me in a direct manner, but treat me intelligently. Not somebody with learning difficulties. Some people with Asperger do have learning difficulties and other problems, but I'm intelligent Asperger. I think it's high functioning Asperger.
Well, we're currently at Park Lane Stables. It's a riding stables, but also a riding for the disabled facility. Tom first came here when he was 5, and he's 24 now, so it's been a long time.
I just work in the yard, grooming horses, and just making sure that they're okay for the next ride. Yeah. When I came here first time, it was in the 1990s. I've been riding since then. I understand why people like to work in office. I just prefer working outside really, because it's just really calming. It gives me a chance to involve myself in helping people with disabilities, and they might not like getting on the horse, but we have to assure them that is okay.
He's a great person to live with. He likes quietness, he likes order, doesn't talk a lot. I think the horses enable him to communicate with an animal in a non-verbal way. And they are very receiving of that, the horses. And he feels that he gets acceptance. It's a very good feeling for him.
The people I work with, they're easy to get along with. Whenever they give instructions, whenever I don't understand the questions, I always ask them, is this the right thing for me? And is this the right thing you want me to do? I think they're quite patient with me. I can remember, I don't know, little bits of information, but not a lot. I think I tend to either while writing on a notepad or either have a recording little recorder thing.
He has a notice board and I write him a series of instructions. And I think it's because he knows that he's got to go to the piece of paper, he will do all the things that he's asked of. Because I think that visually he finds it easier to understand than complicated verbal communication.